Grade 5, MX18, Lesson 2.9 from the Addition and Subtraction with Decimals unit. Hello students and families. This video resource can be viewed as a reminder of learning that happened in the classroom, a review of learning that was missed during an absence, a preview of new learning. Remember, this video cannot replace the math conversations and group learning that takes place in the classroom. If you have questions or would like additional practice, please speak to your teacher. Additional resources are available on the Think Central website. Ask your classroom teacher about how to access this site from home. By the end of this learning activity, students should be able to say, I can read and create bar graphs that include decimals. Here are some of the Tier 3 vocabulary words that will be used in this lesson. Keep in mind that these are not the entire list of vocabulary words for this lesson. Graphing decimals will be very similar to other graphs you have created in the past. Let's take a moment and link to your math scholar knowledge. Let's start by asking, why are bar graphs a valuable tool? Here are my top 3 reasons why a bar graph is useful. First, it shows many points of data in one place. Second, it is easier to compare and contrast this data. And finally, bar graphs apply to many subjects and topics, not just math. Let's practice making a bar graph together using data that contains decimals. Take a moment and get some writing material ready. A ruler or straight edge would also be helpful. Here are some sample numbers that we will plot. Note the numbers are written in hundredths. I always begin by drawing the x-axis or horizontal line. Then I connect the y-axis or vertical line to that. It really does not matter which side you start with. It is good practice to label both sides of the graph. This helps to organize the data. The x-axis will be our samples. We will use the very technical label samples. The abbreviation mg stands for milligrams. Milligrams usually measure mass. We can label the y-axis mass with the unit of measure in parentheses. For now, we will skip the title of the bar graph. Looking at the range of numbers in the table, there is 12 hundredths to 17 hundredths. Now we have to decide the scale that we will use along the y-axis. The range of numbers is not large, so it makes sense to use a scale that increases by a hundredth at each level. Starting with 10 hundredths, or 1/10 at the x-axis makes sense. I'm using a blue color for emphasis to help us see. The color of these numbers does not matter. From here, we can add 11 hundredths and draw its own line. If we count by hundredths, the next number is 12 hundredths. Next is 13 hundredths. You can probably predict how the rest of the y-axis will continue. Now we can focus on the x-axis. We have 4 samples to place. It makes the most sense to start with sample A. Again, color does not matter. Next is sample B, then C, then D. With the skeleton of the bar graph in place, we refer to the table again. Starting with sample A, we see it is 14 hundredths. Carefully, we draw a bar to the correct line. At this point, I do not color in the bar because it is easier to erase if we make a mistake. Let's draw an empty bar for sample B. Always referring back to the table, sample B is 17 hundredths. Let's do the same for the remaining two samples. With the empty bars in place, we can double check our data. When we are sure that all is correct, we can choose a fancy color for a final touch. Earlier we skipped the title. We can now add a title to the bar graph. You can name bar graphs whatever you want, but the title should make sense with what is shown. When hand drawing bar graphs, it is easy to work too quickly and get misaligned. For example, if your y-axis is not evenly spaced, it will be difficult to create accurate graphs. Also, if your first bar is skewed at an angle, it will throw off the rest of the bars. Remember, have patience and strive to improve your skills. Here is problem number 1 from the homework. It is asking you to read the graph correctly for a piece of data. How much did the poodle weigh? Start on the x-axis and find the poodle group. Follow the bar up to where it ends. We see that it is more than 2 kilograms, but not quite 2 2/10. The y-axis scale is counting by 2/10, which means there is 1/10 in the middle of each level. The correct answer is 2 1/10 kilograms. Here is a reminder of the learning target for today. As always, if you have additional questions or if you would like more practice, please talk to your teacher when you return to the classroom. As we continue to build this resource for students and families, any feedback that you have would be appreciated. Feel free to email with any suggestions that you may have.